That night, the entire village of Ebio slept peacefully. But one person remained awake. She was digging a hole not for an enemy, but for her own flesh and blood. There was no war, no demons, only jealousy, and a stolen destiny. The twin sisters identical, as two peas in a pod, but only one is destined to shine. When the prince chooses the elder sister, the darkness within the younger sister awakens, and from that moment, things can never be the same again. She excavated a burial far among the jungle, for her own twin sister, not a complete stranger, unconscious, quiet, buried in jealousy. It wasn't a war. This was jealousy. To steal a destiny, a sister is prepared to bury blood. She believed that her guilt would be concealed by the earth. However, destiny was awake, and the community would be irrevocably rocked by what came next. A peculiar breeze blew through Mama Zola's courtyard in the old Igbo hamlet of Ibio, where the evening moon kissed the rooftops like a silver benediction. Women stopped on their way back from the creek. The restless bleating of goats. Behind her home, the large iroko tree moaned like if an ancient creature had come to life. Okik, the village hunter's kind, soft-spoken wife, Ijeoma, gave birth that evening. Every lamp in the hut flickered as soon as her first baby was born, despite the midwives rushing in with calabashes of hot water and herbal smoke. The baby girl stared up at the oldest midwife, who whispered, "She came with peace. Look at her face, serene as a river at first light." She was given the name Lumina. However, a few seconds later, the lantern flames shook once more, this time with great vigor. The night was peaceful, yet a chilly wind blew through the windows. With little fists clenched and eyes as sharp and blazing, as if she had emerged from a quarrel, the second baby arrived sobbing loudly. The midwife took a step back, trembling. "Ha," she whispered. This one came fighting." She was given the name Nala, two identical twins. Faces are same. Opposing fates. A unusual celestial sign in Ebio, the second moon, lingered peacefully in the sky above the cottage. Later, the elders muttered, "The destiny of twins born under the second moon is to battle for a single destiny. There will only be one shining." However, no one was able to decipher the ancestors' message that evening. The twins' differences were more pronounced as they grew older, like a blade on a stone. The serene one, Lumina, moved with the ease of a breeze. She swept the complex, brought water before dawn, and sang traditional folk songs with such tenderness that even the birds stopped. But Nala moved like lightning. She walked impatiently. She became brash, unyielding, and restless, constantly seeking out areas where she might draw attention to herself. Nala's eyes constricted whenever Lumina received praise. Nala always found an excuse to scowl when Lumina grinned. The villagers started saying, "Shadow must lie beside light wherever it stands." Something else, something darker, caught Mama Zola's attention. Nala's eyes occasionally burned with an odd, ancient fire, as if a ghost were watching her. On other days, she would mutter to herself behind the hut, smile at nothing, laugh when no one else spoke, and talk to herself. For her, Ijeoma prayed. She gave her a herbal bath to safeguard her. For tranquility, she wrapped red thread around her waist. At the shrine, she offered white poultry as a sacrifice for purification. However, Nala's jealousy remained unabated. If left unchecked, jealousy sprouts teeth. Years went by like the Hamadan wind carrying dry leaves. A royal procession from a Calabar country then arrived in Abio on a bright market day. Kofi, tall, graceful, and kind-eyed, rode in the middle. He came looking for rare herbalists and unusual palm wine tappers with a magical touch. But destiny brought him to Lumina. When she saw the royal horses, the firewood she was carrying fell out of her hands. The prince hurried to assist her in retrieving them. Something in his heart clicked into place when she gave him a shy smile. "That's it," he remarked quietly. He informed his guards when he got back to the palace. "Discover her identity. Her hand in marriage is what I desire." The village was humming like a disturbed anthill that night. Lumina became red. Ijeoma performed a dance. The elders even grinned. However, one individual stood silently in their hut's doorway. Nala, she clenched her jaw. Like the day she was born, her hands were clenched. Her breath was cut by the jealousy that twisted her heart. Something exploded inside her when she heard the elders applauding her sister, an object that had remained dormant for many years. She then rushed to her mum. "I want to marry the prince, mother." Her mother gave her a startled and perplexed look. "How do I do it, Nala? Your sister has already been selected by the prince, so you should be pleased for her. She's also your older sister. She's getting married before you, which is a wonderful thing," Ijeoma informed her. Nala set out to locate Lumina, her twin sister. She discovered her tending their goats behind the cottage. "Lumina, sister, there's a favor I wish to ask of you," she remarked with a smile. Lumina asked her what it was, and that she would assist her if she could. "It is my desire to be the one to wed the prince. Instead, would you allow me to wed him?" With avarice, Nala inquired. Lumina remained silent for a while. She shook her head after that. "That's an odd favor to ask of me, Nala. Since the prince picked me, I also like him, and would like to wed him. Your own man will arrive, so don't worry." Nala didn't ask further questions. With a furious expression on her face, she just turned and left. Nala was standing beneath the tree in the compound, gazing attentively at Lumina as she sat in front of the cottage. She said, "If I cannot be chosen, I will make sure she is never chosen," her eyes piercing with jealousy. "Will she wed the prince over my corpse if I am unable to?" And the eyes of the shadow within her opened. The following morning, Lumina went to gather water. It was customary for girls who were getting engaged to wash themselves in the river. However, she was mistaken. She went by herself. Lumina, however, was innocent. She didn't think there was any danger. Silently and covertly, Nala followed, her footsteps soft like a hunter, skulking behind prey. Nala raised a thick clay bowl while Lumina stooped to fill her clay pot, water glistening around her reflection. Her breath became labored. Anger clouded her view. Her inner shadow grinned. She hit Lumina's head, cracked the bowl. Lumina stumbled, gasped, and fell. Nala gazed at her motionless form. Her face was cold, yet her heart pounded frantically. "You won't walk into my destiny," she muttered. "I'll enter yours." She took Lumina by the arms and pulled her into the dense undergrowth where sunlight was absorbed by the jungle. As though the ancestors were observing, the branches above moaned. With shaking hands, Nala dug a shallow grave that is deep enough to conceal a secret and wide enough to accommodate a body. After pushing Lumina inside, she covered her with dirt and stood there gasping, her hands trembling, her eyes crazy. There was silence in the jungle. Not even the birds would sing. However, she left, thinking that the light had finally been vanquished by her shadow. Nala was unaware that someone was observing. The young palm tapper Teo had been repairing his rope high up in a palm tree. From there, he witnessed Nala pulling her own twin's lifeless body into the woods. The dust on her feet caught his attention. He noticed that she was holding a shovel. He noticed the new grave, and he saw her hurry away, glancing guiltily over her shoulder. Teo felt her heart race. "No," he muttered. "I can't believe this." But he was pushed by the forefathers. He was unable to leave because of his spirit. He ran to the grave after climbing down the tree. It was still warm in the earth. He dropped to his knees and dug till his nails bled, using only his bare hands. Then his skin was heated. Lumina, breathing still, faint, half-buried, half-live Teo, took her to his grandmother. Mama Teo, a revered healer, who was able to read spirits' minds. The elderly woman nodded and patted Lumina's chest. She claimed that innocent people are difficult to kill. She is a light. Furthermore, light cannot be buried. Throughout the night, she worked on Lumina, washing her with holy leaves, reciting old chants, and battling the darkness that attempted to take hold of her soul. Lumina opened her eyes before morning. She didn't cry, though she didn't yell. All she did was whisper, "My twin sister Nala desired my life." Destiny changed with that. It was a peaceful morning, as the community of Ebio awoke. Beneath that serenity, however, was the soft tread of a liar, confidently entering the light. Nala packed her braids just like Lumina always did, and swiftly cleaned herself at the creek. She patted her cloth, which resembled Lumina's. She then rehearsed Lumina's gentle grin. She worked on the soft voice. She worked on her modest gait. She resembled Lumina by the time she entered Ebio village. But in her stolen tranquility, she carried the spirit of a lie. The villagers enthusiastically welcomed her. "Oh, the prince's wife, Lumina. Greetings, our daughter. You are incredibly fortunate." Nala lowered her gaze, feigning shyness. However, the heart of one individual shook. Their mother is named Mama Zola. Ijeoma hurried forward, grinning with maternal relief as soon as Nala entered the compound. However, her smile gradually vanished when she felt Nala's arms. "Where is your sister, Lumina?" Ijeoma inquired thoughtfully. Nala tensed up. She made an effort to grin. "She went to get some palm leaves. She'll be back later." Ijeoma gave a blink. The twins in Ebio never parted without a word at that early hour, neither with her mother nor without her twin. Ijeoma lowered his voice. "Look into my eyes, Lumina. Do you think Nala is secure?" Nala took a deep breath. She had a constricted throat. "Yes," she muttered, "Mama. However, A mother's heart is not easily deceived. Nala's palms were traced by Ijima's fingers. They were a little harsh. She examined her feet, which were quite dirty, and had some forest mud stains on them. She hadn't thoroughly cleaned them in her haste. "This morning, where did you go?" Slowly, she asked. Like a thief apprehended, Nala's physique was tense. She lied when she said, "I passed the brook." Ijeoma gave a slow nod. However, anxiety crept like a chilly shadow into her heart. Ijeoma became agitated around noon. Her second daughter has yet to come back. She began asking people if they had seen her other twin daughter, Nala. The villagers became aware of the problem. In the whole community, only one twin could be seen. Women started to murmur. Men scowled. Elders whispered old cautions. Two halves of the same kola nut are called twins. Something has gone wrong if one is absent. "Nala, where are you?" Tears of fear were already running down Ijeoma's face as she stood in her hut. In front of her hut, a small group of people gathered. People started asking loud, anxious inquiries. With a shaky voice, Ijeoma emerged. "I haven't seen Nala since this morning, my people." The locals set up a search right away. Cutlasses and lamps were seized by young males. Women began inspecting forest footpaths and river paths. Elders prayed. Nala pretended to be concerned as he stood in the middle of them. Her heart, meanwhile, pounded like a snare drum inside her chest. She was approached by a young hunter. "She's your twin sister, Lumina. Have you heard anything from her?" Nala's eyes welled up with tears. "I'm not sure where she is," she muttered. She rolled the lie from her lips with ease. The ancestors, however, heard it. Suddenly, the village gate was filled with the sound of drums. It was Kofi. However, he stepped into confusion rather than celebration. The prince scowled. "What's going on?" The elders gave an explanation. "There is a missing twin." Kofi's worried gaze became acute. "Lumina, where are you?" Nala hurried forward and softly raised her voice. "My prince, I'm here." She looked down, shyly. The prince eased up a bit. However, he also felt an odd chill, as if the air would not settle around her. Still, he gave her a cordial greeting. "My sweetheart, don't worry, we'll locate your sister." Nala pretended to be touched and gave a slight smile. However, fear erupted like wildfire inside her heart. Nala slept in Lumina's room that night, after the unsuccessful village-wide search, but she was unable to fall asleep. Rather, a faint noise broke the stillness. "Speak, speak, speak." It emanated from underneath the ground, from beneath the falsehood. Nala shivered and jolted. "Mom," she called gently. "Mama." Ijeoma hurried inside, unable to sleep due to her daughter's absence. "What is it, my kid?" Fearing that the sound would recur, Nala glanced around hastily. However, it had ceased. She dabbed at her forehead. "I just had a bad dream." However, Ijeoma noticed it. The fear behind her eyes. She trembled, concealing the shame. Her concern grew. Lumina, meantime, was gradually becoming stronger in Mama Teo's healing hut. She was given weak broth by Teo. Mama Teo cleaned her hair of the last bit of filth. "There will always be wonders," the ancient healer said. "This child survived the earth. The ancestors are awake." Lumina's voice sounded weak. "She attempted to murder me, my twin." Slowly, Mama Teo nodded. "Jealousy is like a fire that burns its owner first." Teo balled his fists. "This is not something she can get away with. I caught sight of her. I witnessed her actions." Mama Teo, however, raised a hand. "Let fate have its say. In the sun, a lie can walk boldly. However, truth rises like a chilly breeze as night falls." Lumina shut her eyes. It was the day of truth. Nala went to the well to get water the following morning. She leaned over though, and her reflection shifted. Rather than seeing her own face, she noticed Lumina, pale, covered with dirt, wide open eyes. Mouth opened a little. With a yell, Nala tossed the saucepan aside. Women rushed in her direction. "What is it? Lumina, speak with us." Nala shuddered. "Nothing. Go away from me." However, the murmurs started. "This person isn't behaving like Lumina. Why is she shaking like a thief who has committed a crime? There's a problem." Suspicion spread across the hamlet. However, they were still unsure about what. The wedding preparations and the search for her twin went on, despite the fact that she was missing. The drums rolled like thunder as the maidens danced during pre-wedding preparations. Nala moved to stand with them. However, her feet were rigid as she attempted to dance. She locked her knees. Her body was uncooperative. She nearly collapsed after stumbling. The lead drummer gave a low hiss. "The best dancer is Lumina. This time, what might be wrong with her?" Ijeoma hurried ahead, her voice stifled by terror. What is happening to you, my child? Nala managed a shaky smile. Yes, I'm just exhausted. Then though, she heard softly spoken words that were carried by the wind. You can't dance while wearing innocent people's clothes. Lumina had vanished from sight 2 nights prior to the wedding. Ijeoma was dying of concern, divided between sadness for her daughter's continued absence and joy over her daughter's impending wedding. Nala was sitting in front of a bronze mirror plate that evening, doing her hair. She soothed herself by humming. The reflection then wavered. Her face disappeared. Lumina's face looked dusty, battered, and tragically smiling. Nala's blood froze. The reflection then murmured, "I'm coming, Nala." The reflection grew gloomy. The space became chilly. With a cry, Nala fled to a corner and curled up. Finally, her heart was consumed with terror and remorse. She got it. Destiny was on her way to get paid. Over Ibio village, the morning sun rose. But it seemed odd, weaker, and dimmer as though the skies were getting ready for something heavy. Birds sang briefly, yet they chirped. The wind was restless, but the palms rustled. Silently, even the shrines of the ancestors appeared to observe. It wasn't your typical day. This was a day predetermined by fate. Bright linen, fresh flowers, and palm fronds adorned the palace courtyard. The drummers adjusted their instruments. The steps that maidens had been practicing for weeks were rehearsed. Elders waited to bless the union while seated beneath the Iroko tree. The air was heavy, but everything was prepared. Kofi took his time putting on his embroidered wrapper and coral beads, but his heart was wounded by something. "I feel like I am walking into a storm," he said to his advisor. The counselor gave a courteous smile, but remained silent. He had no right to challenge royal things. The village gathered excitedly in the meantime. Everyone muttered, "Lumina will become a queen soon. She has been favored by the gods. The village of Ibio will always be respected." Everyone awaited the bride. Lumina was awaited by all. However, the wrong female was getting ready in the cottage. Cindy once more stepped in front of the mirror. She draped a beautiful red robe around herself. She adorned her neck with coral beads. She softly painted her lips. She grinned at her image. However, the reflection did not return the smile. Rather, it scowled. The beads around her neck then abruptly tightened, nearly choking her. With a cry, Cindy clutched them with both hands. Panting, she ripped them off. Her hands trembled. Her heart pounded. However, she made herself relax. "No, I can't turn back now. I've gone too far." Then she left the hut. Her beauty caused everyone to gasp. However, Ijeoma's heart fell. She approached Cindy cautiously, her spine tingling with apprehension. "Since your sister disappeared, my daughter, my soul has not been at peace. I should be pleased that you are getting married. However, I feel like I'm doing something incorrectly." Cindy took a sharp breath. Her gaze flitted away. "I'm also devastated that my sister hasn't been located, Mama. However, my marriage is no longer the only one involved. It is now a union of 2 kingdoms. One that will make our village of Abio happy and proud." She touched the shoulder of her mother. "Don't worry, Mama. We'll track her down. She'll be secure." Ijeoma took hold of her arm. Her voice wavered. "You're correct, Lumina. We'll find your sister, Cindy, and she'll be fine." Cindy gave a rigid smile. However, the drummers called before anyone else could say anything. "Come forth, bride." Cindy moved away, taking advantage of the diversion. As though the ground itself were warning her, her feet felt heavy as she made her way toward the palace. For the first time in days, Lumina stood in Mama Teo's hut, miles away. She stood tall, despite her legs shaking. Teo hurried over to join her. "Lumina, it's simple. You remain feeble." Lumina gave a headshake. She spoke in a forceful but gentle tone. "I have to return home." Mama Teo moved closer and encircled Lumina's wrist with a protection charm. "Your road has been cleared by the ancestors. Proceed." Teo reached for his workers. "I'll accompany you." Mama Teo, however, took his shoulder. "No, she has to make the last few steps of this voyage by herself. Allow fate to meet her on her own terms." Lumina gave a nod. Her eyes gleamed with sincerity rather than rage. She emerged from the hut wearing a clear white wrapper. The forest wind blew softly. As she went by, the leaves separated. The ground hummed beneath her feet as well. She was being escorted home by destiny. When Nala returned to the palace, he entered the courtyard with pride. People applauded. "Yes, Lumina is stunning. The future queen. Blessings come your way." With a kind grin, Kofi extended his hand to greet her. But the beats abruptly stopped as Nala moved forward. Each and every drum, one by one, pum-pum. Then there was quiet. The air became more dense. The courtyard was swept by a chilly wind. The elderly suddenly stood up. In their hands, their staff shook. The top priest gave a profound scowl. His staff, wrapped in cowrie, shone dimly. "Drums are not for today," he muttered. "The ancestors are agitated." Nala felt her skin crawl. Her heart was racing. Behind her, something shifted. There was going to be something. People abruptly pointed from the far end of the village path. "Who is that? Is that right? It can't be. No, it's her. Lumina is here." Everybody turned. With startled eyes, Kofi let go of his hand. Nala whirled around. Lumina was there, strolling serenely through the village gate. Alive, inhaling, tidy, bright. The sun shone on her white robe. The charm glistened on her wrist. Her braids were tied beautifully. Her skin was intact. She appeared to be a woman straight out of heaven. The villagers let out shocked screams. God, oh God, this is not possible. She had no idea where she was. For days, she was absent. What's going on? Nala staggered back, her mouth quivering wildly. This is not feasible, I assure you. Confused and furious, Kofi moved forward. He looked at Nala for a while before turning to face the person he had abruptly skipped over. Are you Lumina? What took place with you? You've been where? However, Lumina's gaze was fixed on a single individual. Nala, her identical twin. Her traitor. Her shadow. She approached her directly. Nala's knees gave out with uncontrollable shaking. Nala fell to the ground. Her voice broke. Her breath caught. What, Lumina? What are you? A ghost, a specter. I laid you to rest. I laid you to rest. How do you stand in this situation? The folks let forth a gasp. Kofi's horrified eyes grew wide. You laid your sister to rest. Immediately the elders rose. Ijeoma, their mother, left in a stupor, a look of shock and incredulity covering her face. The head priest reached for his stick. This is what your mouth is saying. Nala, daughter of Ijeoma, don't hold a ghost responsible. Nala broke down in tears. I didn't mean it. I simply did. Everything was always taken by her. Everything. The affection. The regard. The prince. She let out a scream. I was meant to shine, not her. With a voice as calm as water, Lumina took a step closer. You want my fate, but fate cannot be taken from you. She raised her wrist to see the softly shimmering ancestral charm. Your crime was rejected by the earth. I was lifted from the tomb by my ancestors. Ijeoma moved forward at that point, and the villagers parted. Before the chief priest, he bowed. He spoke with strength and clarity. She tells it as it is. That morning, I witnessed Nala leaving a brand new cemetery with a spade in hand and dirt-covered feet. Lumina was still breathing when I dug with my bare hands after she departed. The air was filled with gasps. Ijeoma sobbed in agony as she fell to the ground. My kids, what is this evil god? Prince Finn cast a horrified and disappointed glance at Nala. Would you murder your own sister in order to be married? Nala wailed more, trembling. However, justice was already on its way. The monarch got to his feet. He had a thunderous voice. You've done an abomination, Nala. The attempt to murder your own twin. Twins have a sacred bond. The elders echoed. Holy. The head priest lifted his staff. The ancestors have decreed this crime. They will transport you to the dreadful forest. Until your spirit repents, you will continue to stray. You won't go back there ever again. As the guards seized Nala, she let out a scream. No, please, Mama, please assist me. Ijeoma fainted while attempting to stand. The compound rang with her cries. Nala kicked, pleaded, and trembled as he clawed at the earth. However, the planet had had enough of her. She was hauled away by the guards. Into the shadowy woods. Into the area where owners are eaten by shadows. There was silence. Gently, everyone turned to face Lumina. With gentle gaze, Prince Finn approached her. I'm glad you made it through. And respectfully, will you still grant me the privilege of getting married to you? Lumina's eyes were serene as she gazed at him. I accept my prince, but not with pride. With humility, I accept. Because appearance is not as important as destiny. The peasants applauded. She was blessed by the elders. In accord, palm fronds swayed. Lumina thus wed Prince Finn as a lady who had survived death and come back, rather than as a proud bride. Her tale turned into a lesson. Her life turned into a proverb. For days, Nala wandered the spooky woodland, thirsty and hungry. She drank her urine, slept under trees, ate wild berries, and got colds. Her clothing was ripped and resembled a rag. The majority of the time, she would hear people yelling her name and declaring that she was suffering. And until her legs hurt, she would run. She lived like this. For as long as no one knew, I lived a nomadic life. Children were instructed by the elders. A demon that devours its owner first is jealousy. A person can be buried, but their destiny cannot be buried. The village of Ebio never forgot. Lumina never forgot. The forest itself never forgot. Because some people claim that Nala's voice can still be heard remorsefully, calling out through the trees on calm evenings. However, fate doesn't respond. Destiny does nothing except observe. The final chapter. As Simdi was led into the dark forest where lost souls must live with the darkness within themselves, the village of Ibio fell into a heavy silence. No one rejoiced, no one gloated, because this victory was not of man, but of truth. Ciara stood silently in the courtyard, in her simple white wedding dress. She wasn't joyful like someone who had just received justice, nor resentful like someone who had been betrayed. In her eyes, there was only a gentle sadness, the sadness of someone who understands that evil doesn't come from the devil, but from a heart that has been wounded for too long. The prince took Ciara's hand, not as a victor, but as one grateful for fate. The villagers knelt, not to honor a wedding, but to bow their heads before the truth that had been revealed. The wedding took place in silence and soft light. No drums beating, no dazzling fireworks. Just the wind, the sun, sincere blessings, and gentle tears shed as people understood something deeper than joy. And from that day on, Simdi was no longer mentioned as a traitor, but as a warning. And Ciara was not called lucky but, rather someone who survived the clutches of the people. The village of Ebio returned to peace. But every time the wind blew through the trees, people remembered, you can bury a person, but you cannot bury the truth. You can steal opportunities, but you cannot steal destiny. And so, the story doesn't end with a wedding, it ends with an awakening.